Hello, everyone. This is Yzengrin Jeff stepping in for this round of commentary. Pants is here, at least
Yep.
for a little bit.
I'll still be here, but that Acme game took a lot out of me. So
So we're midway through between Melvin and Dan DiArgenio. Looks like first turn for PD was just install and spin doctor and hedge fund. It looks like Max is milling out. So this is sort of one of the defining matchups in the meta right
Yeah.
now. It's APOC Max against just good stuff precision design. And these are two players that are playing for their spot in the cut at
now
this point.
there is a spicy include in Melvin's list. I'm not going to say it because we haven't seen it yet today, but there is a card that if it gets rezzed, you will be very surprised to see it in PD.
Well, I'm excited to find out what that is.
We might not. It's a one-off.
I've seen some spicy tech today. I've seen some black file and just Reg
Yep.
419.
We saw that in Reg Zaya earlier too.
Okay, yep. It didn't end up helping the 419 player, but that's just because I had a brutal start, but then less brutal going on. Okay.
That is moshing.
Yep, that's a moshing. So we're seeing a daily cast. It looks like a black orchestra and maybe a labor rights.
Hard to see the third card from here, but
Yeah.
moshing,
It looks
which is
sorta
now
like
hanging
two
out in play.
heads.
Okay,
Yeah.
no longer hanging out in play.
Uh,
Definitely saw a black orchestra though.
Yep, and then what are we installing? I literally cannot tell. It's got... Oh, it's Imp. That's what it is.
Oh,
Two
Imp,
virus
okay.
counters.
And something just happened. I'm gonna see
yeah.
what that was.
Yep, let's see. That looked like maybe it was an agenda score, so we'll find out in just a second. Fantastic. Okay, yeah, that was an agenda score. That is what it looked like. So Dan's now on 2 points from the GFI. I mean, that's fantastic. A hit early.
Absolutely.
Then running and now actually apparently is imping the spin doctor. So Melvin's decided that he doesn't need it, which is interesting to me. A lot of the precision design lists are down to a single spin doctor. So you have to use the single spin, I think, a little differently than you use 3x spin. 3x
Yeah.
spin, you kind of just throw around whatever.
I have seen multiple spins in Melvin's list. He was on stream in an earlier round. So,
Oh,
But
interesting.
he also used it in a similar way, where just play it, then trash it, then later spin doctor it back.
Okay. Yeah, so because the list I was on was 2 Chrysiums instead
Yeah.
of 2 spin
Yeah,
doctors, which I think is pretty common. So we see one APOC and overclock going in the bin, but Dan's got a good amount of money and some money sitting on liberated accounts still. But Melvin is threatening in the remote. I don't think Dan's not representing a lot of threats. He has a black orchestra to get in. And
See a deuces.
we see a deuces. So
Drawing
just
cards.
drawing. And it looks like I think he took some credits off of it as well. So
Yeah, I think you're right. Another moshing, pitching a clot, an MK, and I think it's second MK.
yes, that looks like 2 MKs.
So good moshings so far. Definitely
Yeah.
moshing, hitting the cards that you really want to hit as max.
If there was a labor rights earlier, it's because Dan has another labor rights in hand.
Absolutely.
So. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll open up the chat on my phone and see if it's there.
Are you Instagram?
Yes.
Okay. I was sure this to okay. So I was your opponent, just making sure
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I dropped. So my bad.
All right, we have running, accessing. So not really denying the overclock credits. Overclock credits just go to trashing, but not revealing what the ice is on the remote.
Oh, I think I want to do this commentary. So.
Taking the last of the money off liberated. So Dan is on quite a bit of money right now and has cleared out the Rashida and Tranquility that were in the remote. But Melvin is right back with a second ice and another installed card in that remote. Definitely just Melvin plays this deck, I'd say, probably in the very classical way of just, I have a lot of things, I throw them in my remote, and sometimes they kill you and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and having the extra spin doctors is nice because it's really you don't want to put a Chrysium in the remote as a bluff, but putting a spin doctor in the remote as a bluff is fantastic for you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so that's a very nice trade-off to have.
Border control on HQ.
It seems like there's not a paperclip in the bin, though I haven't seen Melvin take a credit here, but I'm assuming. But border control on
Might
HQ.
have just missed the trigger.
Yeah. Border control on HQ is also really nice, or I missed the trigger too. border control on HQ is really nice for the
Oh,
APOC
Rashida.
matchup, and then we see Rashida fired.
Yeah, agreed. Right, exactly. For APOC, it's great to have these border controls on at least one central. Obviously, there are ways to play when you know that your opponent has APOC anti-tech on at least one server, but it is still, it's going to be a little annoying for APOC to actually get through it.
Yep, and we see now another install on that remote, just installing some ice on R&D to make it a little bit safer, saying, you know, it's now going to be hard for this Max to hit both remotes, or both centrals pretty well.
Another overclock.
Okay, overclock is a huge deal here. Like it's a big part of the econ for this Max list. It looks like maybe Dan just broke. Okay, yeah, broke both subs because I can map. Though I'm not sure why the paperclip isn't installed.
Oh, and that's a
that's a luminal.
Luminal, right? Yeah, that's a
that's
luminal.
very nice.
Definitely a good hit there.
This is Dan's doing exactly what you need to do against PD, which is steal the agendas.
Yep.
You can contest.
It really does come down to that.
Yeah, no, I mean you can contest the remote, you can contest centrals, but at a certain point you just need to get, you know, like, I don't know, I'm one of those, like, partially because I'm abusing PD, but I'm like, PD is ultimately a very fair deck, and you just have to play Netrunner against it, and, you know, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but...
Now, that is a second border control on centrals. That is not... I mean, on the one hand, it's not great news for Dan if he needs to APOC, but does Dan need to APOC? He's on 4 already. He might not need to.
He can take his time. He can really
Yeah.
play this one out. Like, generally, I also...
We do see a border control pop thing.
Yeah, so I that's interesting. Melvin, I guess,
Yeah.
really trying. I think if that was a click one run, I think that's not that's actually kind of reasonable. You got the MK Ultra install,
Yeah.
and you want to keep your ice on HQ.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this was a 7 cost run to Max, and Max doesn't have infinite money. Though
No,
we do see an
definitely
amped
not.
up here, so it does seem like Dan's maybe
Ooh,
just going for
amped
the
up.
APOP. We know there's one in the bin, so we didn't see what got hit with
Did not.
brain
I'm
damage.
gonna go see what it.
All right. While Pants is going to look for that, we're just going to keep drawing. So,
Hit a labor rights.
okay, so it hit a labor rights, which makes sense that there's a labor rights in hand with
Yeah.
the earlier thing.
But crucially, did not hit the APOC if there is another APOC.
If there is an
Or
APOC.
if there
Yep.
is an APOC.
Just imped a card from R&D, couldn't really tell what. And now here's the APOC in hand. I didn't see how...
Planet has been hacked.
Yeah, the planet has been... Oh, you know what? Maybe we missed the run on HQ that happened earlier, and
I
so
think
then the
so.
border
I think
control
so,
makes a
yeah.
little more sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, getting that maximum value, forcing you
Yeah.
to break all of it.
But you know, Melvin's right back at it, and this is how you. One of the ways to play PD against these APOC matchups is just hold an ice and the thing you want to install behind it
Yep.
for the following turn, because usually the runner had to invest a lot and will be reset there.
And that's a spin doctor.
That's Spin Doctor. I'm guessing there's maybe a run on archives going on here. Not exactly sure because I think it's still Dan's turn.
I think you're right, yeah. Melvin looking through the bin, seeing what's in there.
Yeah.
My guess is
Yeah.
probably.
I
mean,
don't think there's a
number of
paper
things
clip
to-
potentially,
yeah.
so that
Right.
might be very like this is the thing that like PD has to do is they have to check what's available and what the install costs are going to be.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think this is at the point in the game. I don't think it's too early to be looking for the number of labor rights there also, because that
That's
tells you
true.
how long of a game you're likely to have to play.
yeah, and we know that one got hit by moshing earlier,
Yeah.
and then one got hit by the amped up. So there's a decent chance that all of the labor rights are in
yeah.
the bin at this point, or
And
will end up in
if
the
there
bin.
are 3, all you have to do is weather the storm until Max is out of money.
Yeah, you just keep installing the remote every turn, and because you know you're
Oh, that is a
Well, that
cyber
makes
X.
it
that
really
makes it
hard
much
for
harder to
Melvin.
weather the storm. That's
Yeah.
that's not weathering the storm. That's just getting flooded there.
So, yeah, that's unfortunate. We all have those games. You know, this is what, like 5 or 6 single accesses
Yep.
maybe, and it's 6 points. That's just how. That's Netrunner, right?
Yep.
But we'll still, you know, it's not over for Melvin, especially if all the
Absolutely
labor
not.
rights are gone. That would be. That's maybe enough to win if all the labor rights are gone. So.
Yeah.
You know, because you just have to be at max through 1 or 2 bad runs, and it's just over. So,
Oh, finds and trashes the Mangarm Skunk Works on
Yep.
R&D.
Now we have no idea what's in this remote here. It could be all sorts of stuff.
My guess would be Rashida, but who knows?
Yeah, that looked like a seamless launch.
Yep, yep.
And then we see a daily cast installed. So Dan's definitely going to have some money for quite a while still. Melvin's got to really try and drag this out, assuming all labor rights are in the bin.
Yeah, this is a tough position to be in for Melvin,
Very
especially
much
given
so.
how low Melvin was on credits. But
Yeah.
being up to 9 credits is actually a big deal because that just means you are able to res ice and not dip below the critical values that you have.
Yep. And icing R&D tells me HQ is nice and clear.
Yep.
All the rest of the agendas.
Or it's a great bluff, just a big old bluff.
Yeah, I mean,
A risky one at this point in the game, but who knows? You know, if you're that far behind, maybe you go for a risky play.
that's
like that.
definitely true. And
It's
I imagine
probably
he has 6
clear,
cards
right?
in hand. There's the rebirth.
The rebirth.
That looks like just an Omar into R&D, which
yep.
makes a lot of sense. Dan can basically just single R&D, and that can probably be enough up until Melvin makes that expensive.
So the inside scoop here, Dan did not bring a full set of Anarch IDs, so you should not expect to see Omar on the table, but you should expect for this to be Omar.
Yeah, I think someone did actually give him a set of
Oh, really?
Anarch IDs,
Oh.
but
Well, where are they? Come on,
well,
man.
I think he's just playing fast and loose and saying you're a good player, I'm a good player, we know what
Yeah.
this is. So
Okay, legitimate.
yeah, I did have one rebirth into Freedom today, and then every other game was rebirth into Omar.
Yeah.
But
It is not on stream, but you can't quite see it in frame, but there is an ice on archives.
That's good to know.
There is now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I might go ask him to slide over. By
Yeah,
a
that
couple
seems-
inches.
that seems reasonable. Okay, it looks like Dan's making a run on archives potentially. Yeah. And there's a botulus on the archives ice, which is okay. So that's what it was. It was an install on archives, not a run on archives. But,
Yeah.
okay, we have a Tranquility Home Grid bluff on R&D
But it's not a bluff.
bluff because you're installing the Managarm Skunk Works most likely.
Yeah.
Just to make it really annoying. But Managarm doesn't work against Omar. The only
Right.
thing that works would
Right.
maybe be a Chrysium Grid, but you can't install 2 regions in a remote.
I think we're getting a judge call about does that interaction work right now.
Yeah. Maybe that was a second region.
Oh no, Tranquility Home Grid is remote only.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Tranquility Home Grid is remote
Well,
only.
I mean,
unfortunately, that is the second game loss we've seen on stream here.
that's rough.
Yeah.
But Dan also was very, very far ahead.
Right,
here.
I was gonna, that was a game loss on probably a 95% win.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
technically, I had a game earlier where my opponent did the class X, put the cards in their hand, started moving them around, and
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta call you on this. But also, I had the winning agenda in the remote,
Yeah.
and we were like, yeah, we'll just call it anyway.
Yep. So I don't know if they 2-for-1. I don't know if we have.
But they have to have 2-for-1. They
Yeah.
can't make a cut without 2-for-1.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine it's going to be.
I have to imagine that's Dan making the cut then.
Yeah, that's Dan
So
making the cut.
Dan did not have a good start to the day. Dan started off
1 and 3 or
1
something.
and 3, I believe. So
Okay,
getting
just 2
like
for 1 up.
showing why Dan is the 2-time world champion and 3rd time got 3rd at Worlds.
Yeah.
Just a lot of Netrunner skill coming out and playing tournaments very well and
Yep.
staying in it.
And I'm going to make a joke here because I do agree with everything Pants said, but also showing the elite player skill of accessing 6 points in 7 accesses, which is
That is also fair.
it is I will tell you that is how the elite players win a lot of their games.
Yeah.
But they're also elite players because they do everything else well. Too,
Yeah.
so.
Well, yeah. I think that a mistake that a lot of players who are not at that level make is not going for accesses as often as they should, and this really shows accesses sometimes pay off with, well, it's turn 5 and I have 6 points.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the funny thing where you start playing and everyone tells you, oh, stuff like Maker's Eye is bad because people often play it at bad times, and then you're like, okay, I'm only going to take accesses that I think are very high probability for agenda, and so when you start playing, you just access all the time, and you access at the wrong time. You pay 5 credits for a single access that could be anything. And then you slowly get better, and you access fewer and fewer cards. And then you get really good again, and you just start accessing cards and winning because of it.
Well,
So,
I think one of the big reasons, right, is when you are a new player, seeing a random card off R&D does not actually, like, really the value is in the access, not in the information you gain from the access. Whereas when you're a very good player, you can build your entire game plan around seeing an ice off of R&D and knowing that it's probably the ice that just went in the remote.
Yeah, and it also tells you, oh, here's what my opponent's able to threaten me with next turn.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, there's a lot of play around knowing what the next couple of turns are going to look like. And tomorrow we'll, you know, hopefully see a lot more of these
Agreed.
good players in the top cut, you know,
Well,
showing off their
congratulations
skills.
to Melvin for getting this close on the bubble this far in.
Yeah.
Good tournament by Melvin for sure. And also congrats to Dan too. We haven't seen the announcement, but I would think probably just made the cut there.
Most likely, yeah. And you know, this was a field stacked full of people, and
we saw.
it's really hard to you know, it's hard to pick a top 8 players in this field that's got, you know,
Extraordinarily
easily 15 players that are at some point in time all top 8 in the world,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed. I've talked about this a little bit through the day, but I think it's probably good to just go through some of the raw numbers here. We have 3 world champions. We have 4 world championships. How many World's Top 16 competitors do we have? We have those
goodness.
3, obviously.
Yeah, we've got
Spags,
Greg,
Andrews,
Chris.
Cat was 17th.
Yep. Did we list off Greg already? And maybe we did. The guy I was supposed to play this round, who I don't remember, I can check who that was. Brandon Hawk was apparently a world's top 16.
Yeah.
I don't remember for what year or how. So
that is at least 7. At
And
least
the-
7 people who have played in the top 16 at the World Championships. We
Yeah.
have people who have placed high at Continentals. We have people
Yeah.
who have placed high at Intercontinentals. You know, people who have won regionals. People who have won regionals in extremely stacked fields like the one today.
I
The
would have
Netrunner talent here is fearsome to fight through.
I would have really appreciated if there were some softer people on the field, but
Man, why do you think I didn't play?
well,
Yeah, I've joked through the day that this is like the off-the-grid World Championships, but genuinely, the assembling of talent here is... I want to say that this is the most Netrunner talent that's been assembled in a single room since Worlds 2019, or the last time the pencil was alone in a room.
in the skill per head kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's hoping to see some great games tomorw. I'll have to think about whether or not I want to join for commentary and commentate some good games, or
I'll
I'll
be
play
back.
some
I'll be
Eternal.
back on comms. I will not have just watched the Marathon Acme game starting tomorrow, so.
Well, everyone will be nice and fresh, and
Yeah.
well, I would say rested, but more likely hungover.
Almost certainly not. Almost certainly the opposite, but
Yeah.
at least I'll be fresh on Netrunner.
Yeah.
All right, but stay tuned on Stim Slack. You can go to the Cobra page for the event to see who's going to end up in the top 8. I don't think the stream is going to stick around for the top 8 announcements, but you can find that easily. And obviously, we will be here tomorrow morning. Should be about the same time tomorrow as it was today. Probably a little bit earlier. There was a mix-up where not a mix-up, but the TO.
45 minutes left in the round.
The TO had to pick up a car this morning, which is why the tournament started later, and does not need to pick up a car tomorrow. So, we should be starting around 11, I believe, tomorrow.
Okay.
And at that point, we'll be back to talk about who's in the top 8, and you'll get to see it then. So, join us then.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.